Dr. Kim stood motionless before the hospital board. 5 stern faces stared back at her from behind the long wooden table. The room felt too cold, despite the warmth outside on Novus Prime's perpetually sunny days. The lawsuit papers rested on the desk before her, formal documents with official seals that seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds. "Dr. Kim, do you understand the seriousness of these accusations?" asked Dr. Yoon, the head of the medical board. His voice carried the weight of 40 years of medical practice. "I do," she replied quietly. 3 days ago, Surgeon Park had awakened from surgery to discover his left foot missing, not his infected right one as had been planned. His screams had echoed through the recovery ward, bringing nurses running. The hospital had gone into immediate crisis mode. Now Park was suing for malpractice, and reporters clustered outside the medical center like hungry insects. Their headlines already declared her guilt. "Doctor amputates wrong foot. Career over." Dr. Kim looked down at her hands, steady hands that had performed hundreds of surgeries without error. Hands that had saved lives on the battlefield during the colony wars. Hands that had deliberately removed Surgeon Park's left foot while knowing exactly what she was doing. "We've reviewed the surgical logs," said Dr. Song, the youngest board member. "The surgical plan clearly marked the right foot for amputation due to the bacterial infection spreading from the wound. Yet you removed the left. There's no documentation of any change to the plan." Dr. Kim nodded. "That's correct." The board members exchanged glances. They had expected denial, excuses, anything but this calm acceptance. "The patient's scans show the right foot was, and still is, infected," continued Dr. Yoon, while the left foot appeared completely healthy in all pre-surgical scans. "I understand how it looks," Dr. Kim said. Outside the window, she could see the distant shape of an alien observation vessel hanging in the sky. The Watchers, as the colonists called them, had been there since humans first arrived on Novus Prime. They rarely communicated, just observed. Their ship seemed to glint in the sunlight, as if signaling to her. "Dr. Kim, your record has been spotless until now," said Dr. Ba, the elder surgeon who had once been her teacher. Disappointment clouded his face. "I trained you myself. I cannot understand how such a basic error could occur." She wanted to tell them. The words pressed against her teeth, demanding release. But the military briefing she had received 2 years ago had been clear. Absolute secrecy was required regarding what they had discovered in the bodies of 3 dead colonists on Outpost 7. "I stand by my surgical decision," she said simply, meeting their accusatory stares. Dr. Yoon sighed. "The medical board is suspending your surgical privileges effective immediately, pending full investigation. Security will escort you to collect your personal items." As she walked out, Dr. Han caught her in the hallway. He had been her research partner for 5 years. "What happened in there, Sunmi?" he whispered, using her first name. "This isn't like you. Was it stress? Fatigue? We all make mistakes." "It wasn't a mistake," she said quietly. His eyes widened. "What are you saying?" "The scans clearly show." "Sometimes scans don't show everything," she replied. A security officer approached. "Dr. Kim, I need to escort you to your office." Dr. Han stepped back, confusion and concern battling on his face. In her office, Dr. Kim locked the door and pulled out the small sample container hidden inside her lab coat. Inside was a sliver of tissue from Park's healthy left foot. Under her microscope, she could see what the hospital's equipment had missed, what only specialized military scanners could detect. The tissue cells were dividing and moving in patterns impossible for human cells. Her secure military communicator buzzed. The message was brief. "Containment team en route. Sample confirmation." She typed back. "Positive. Stage 2 infiltration. Would have reached neural tissue within 48 hours. The communicator buzzed again. "Acceptable sacrifice. Maintain cover." Dr. Kim closed her eyes. Surgeon Park would never know that losing his foot had saved his life, and possibly much more. The parasite was getting better at hiding. This was the fourth case, but the first they'd caught before it reached the brain. She gathered her personal items into a box as security waited outside. Her career might be over, but Park would live. And for now, humanity's secret war against an invisible enemy would remain just that, secret. The Colonial Judicial Center buzzed with whispers as people filed into Courtroom 3. Word had spread quickly about the case. Doctor amputates wrong foot, and seats filled with curious onlookers. News drones hovered near the ceiling, their tiny cameras capturing every moment for viewers across Novus Prime. Lawyer Lee stood before the bench, his slim figure made more imposing by his formal black suit. He gestured dramatically toward the evidence screen where medical scans of 2 feet appeared side by side. "The evidence is overwhelming," he argued, voice carrying easily through the room. Dr. Kim amputated the healthy foot while leaving the infected one. He tapped the screen, highlighting a clearly visible dark mass in one foot. These scans from the day before surgery show significant infection in the right foot. Yet Dr. Kim inexplicably removed the left foot, which showed no signs of disease whatsoever. Park sat in his wheelchair in the plaintiff's area, the empty space where his left foot should be covered by a blanket. His face remained stoic, but his hands gripped the armrests tightly. 6 months of physical therapy had taught him to manage with a prosthetic, but the phantom pain still haunted him nightly. At the defense table, Dr. Kim sat with perfect posture. She had lost weight since her suspension, her lab coat replaced by a simple gray suit that hung slightly loose on her frame. She watched Lawyer Lee without visible emotion, occasionally making notes on a small tablet. What caught many people's attention, however, wasn't the doctor or the patient, but the 3 alien observers from the diplomatic courts who sat unusually close to the proceedings. The watchers rarely attended human events and never legal proceedings. Their tall, slender forms and iridescent skin drew sideways glances from everyone in the courtroom. "We call Dr. Nam to the stand," Lawyer Lee announced. Dr. Nam, the colony's most respected pathologist, walked forward. After being sworn in, he presented his findings with clinical precision. "I examined tissue samples from both Sergeant Park's amputated left foot and biopsies from his right foot. The left foot tissue showed no signs of infection or disease. In contrast, the right foot shows an advanced bacterial infection, consistent with the original diagnosis." Lawyer Lee nodded seriously. "And in your professional opinion, was there any medical justification for amputating the left foot instead of the right?" "None whatsoever," Dr. Nam stated firmly. "It contradicts all standard medical practice and logic." In the gallery, Dr. Kim's former colleagues sat together, their expressions ranging from confusion to contempt. They had worked alongside her for years, trusted her judgment in countless emergencies. Now they couldn't meet her eyes. Only her research partner, Dr. Han, still spoke to her. During the court recess, he found her alone in a quiet corridor. "Sun Mai, this isn't going well," he whispered. "The settlement offer is still open. You could avoid losing your license entirely if you admit to an error." "I can't do that," she replied. "Why?" "Everyone makes mistakes, even the best surgeons." His voice dropped lower. "I'm worried about you. The way you're handling this. Some people think you're having some kind of breakdown." She looked at him, seeing the genuine concern in his eyes. Dr. Han had questioned her sanity in private conversations with colleagues. She knew this from the military surveillance. She couldn't blame him. "I appreciate your concern," she said simply. The court reconvened, and Dr. Kim's defense lawyer, a military-appointed attorney named Mr. Kang, who seemed strangely unconcerned by the mounting evidence, called for their first witness. The defense calls Colonel Joe from Novus Prime Military Medical Division. A murmur swept through the courtroom. The military rarely involved themselves in civilian matters. Colonel Joe strode forward in full uniform, her presence commanding immediate attention. Before she could be sworn in, one of the alien observers rose. The translator device at its throat activated. "This witness's testimony involves matters of interspecies security protocol. The mechanical voice stated, "We request private testimony." The judge frowned. "This is a public proceeding. Regulations regarding first contact protocols supersede colonial law," Colonel Joe stated flatly. "I am prepared to invoke Emergency Order 17 if necessary." The judge's face darkened, but he nodded reluctantly. "The court will recess while I hear this testimony in chambers." As the observers, the colonel, and the legal teams moved toward the judge's chambers, Dr. Kim caught Sergeant Park watching her. For just a moment, something passed between them. Not forgiveness, but perhaps the first hint of a question forming in his mind. Why would the military and the aliens care about a simple malpractice case? The laboratory hummed with the quiet sounds of machines. Dr. Choi sat alone at her workstation, the blue light of her microscope casting shadows across her tired face. It was well past midnight, but sleep had become a distant memory since she'd been assigned to the independent review of the Park case. She adjusted the focus on her microscope and peered at the tissue samples again. The label read Park, left foot, section C7. This was tissue from the supposedly healthy foot that Dr. Kim had amputated. "This can't be right," Dr. Choi muttered to herself. She had been examining these samples for 3 days straight. At first, everything seemed normal. But then she noticed something odd. The cells were still active. Not just alive, which was unusual enough for week-old samples, but actively regenerating despite being separated from a host. She watched as a cell divided before her eyes. Human tissue simply didn't behave this way outside a living body. Dr. Choi sat back, rubbing her eyes. She reached for her comm unit and hesitated only briefly before calling her supervisor, despite the late hour. Dr. John answered with a bleary voice. "This better be important, Dr. Choi." "Sir, I need you to come to the lab. There's something here nobody's seeing." 20 minutes later, Dr. John stood beside her, his own face now illuminated by the eerie blue light as he observed the sample. "I've never seen anything like this," he admitted. "Have you checked the equipment for malfunction?" 3 different microscopes, same result. "And look at this." She pulled up previous scans of Park's foot from before the surgery. "These look like normal human cells. But what I'm seeing now, it's like they've changed somehow." "Changed how?" "I don't know," she admitted. "But whatever this is, it's not a simple bacterial infection." Across the colony, in his small apartment, Sergeant Park lay awake in bed. Sleep eluded him as it had most nights since the surgery. The phantom limb sensations had begun as the doctors said they would, tingling where his left foot should be. But lately, those sensations had changed. He felt like something was crawling up his leg, from a foot that wasn't there. Park sat up and switched on the light. He pulled back the covers and stared at the stump below his left knee. Nothing visible, yet the sensation continued, like fingers walking up his calf, moving independently of his thoughts. He reached for his pain medication, then stopped. This wasn't pain. This was something else entirely. His comm unit buzzed unexpectedly. The ID showed Colonial Military Medical Division. "Sergeant Park speaking," he answered, confusion clear in his voice. "Sergeant, this is Colonel Joe. I need you to describe any unusual sensations you've been experiencing." Park felt a chill run down his spine. "How did you know?" At the Colonial Government Center, 3 alien representatives stood before Administrator Shin's desk. Their tall, slender forms seemed to shimmer slightly under the office lights. "We request immediate access to the medical records of the human called Park," the lead alien stated through its translator. "This is a matter of interspecies security." Administrator Shin frowned. "Medical records are private under colonial law. I can't just." "This is not a request we make lightly," interrupted the alien. "The tissue samples in your laboratory present a potential contamination scenario." "Contamination?" Shin's eyes widened. "Are you saying there's a risk to our colony?" The alien representatives exchanged glances. "We are saying that time is of essence." Across the city, Dr. Choi was leaving the laboratory when a hand reached out from a darkened doorway and pulled her aside. She nearly screamed before recognizing Dr. Kim. "What are you doing here?" Dr. Choi hissed. "You're not allowed in any medical facility until your case is resolved." "I know what you found in those samples," Dr. Kim said urgently. Dr. Choi pulled back. "How could you possibly?" "Because I knew it was there when I removed the foot." Dr. Kim's eyes were intense, pleading. "What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible." She pulled a small device from her pocket, a military-grade scanner. "This is set to detect non-human cellular structures. Use it on the samples." "Why should I trust you? You ruined a man's life by taking the wrong foot." "Did I?" Dr. Kim challenged. "Think about it, Dr. Choi. If I made a mistake, why would the military be involved? Why would the aliens care? Why would tissue from a human foot continue regenerating outside the body?" Dr. Choi stared at her, realization slowly dawning. "It wasn't a human foot anymore, was it?" she whispered. Dr. Kim shook her head slowly. "Not entirely, no. And if I hadn't removed it when I did, Park would be dead now, along with possibly everyone he came in contact with." "What is it?" "We don't have a name for it yet, but it's not from Earth, and it's not from here." Dr. Kim glanced around nervously. "The Watchers know about it. They've seen it before on other worlds." Dr. Choi felt her world tilting. "Are you saying?" A sudden commotion at the end of the hallway cut her off. Military personnel were entering the building. "They're coming for the samples," Dr. Kim said urgently. "You have a choice to make, Dr. Choi. Right now." The emergency meeting of the medical board convened in a secure room deep beneath the Colonial Government Center. Armed guards stood at the doors. The room's windows had been covered with electronic scramblers to prevent any surveillance. 7 people sat around the oval table, the 5 members of the medical board, Dr. Kim, and Colonel Joe. Dr. Yoon, still the head of the medical board, looked pale as he shuffled through the files Colonel Joe had just distributed. The other board members appeared equally shaken. "Is this confirmed?" Dr. Yoon asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Colonel Joe nodded grimly. "Everything has been verified through multiple tests and sources. Dr. Kim's actions have been validated by military medical protocol." All eyes turned to Dr. Kim. She sat straight-backed in her chair, the weight of secrets finally lifting from her shoulders. The past 6 months of disgrace, of colleagues turning away, of whispers following her, all of it had been necessary. The infection wasn't bacterial, Dr. Kim explained to the stunned medical board. It was a parasitic organism using Park's left foot as camouflage before planning to migrate to his brain. Dr. Song shook his head in disbelief, but the scans clearly showed. "The parasite mimics human tissue on standard medical scans," interrupted Colonel Joe. "It's why we developed specialized detection equipment after the first case 3 years ago." Dr. Kim touched the display embedded in the table, bringing up a series of medical files. "These are classified under First Contact Protocol, but you're being granted temporary clearance." The files opened, displaying 3 patient records from other colonies. Each told the same grim story: unusual injury, seeming recovery, then sudden death as something invaded the brain. 3 previous cases on other colonies, all ending in death when the parasite reached neural tissue. Dr. Kim continued. The first victim was a miner on Outpost 7. By the time they realized something was wrong, 5 more colonists had been infected. "How does it spread?" asked Dr. Ba, his elderly hands trembling slightly as he examined the files. "That's what makes it so dangerous," Colonel Joe said. "It doesn't need direct tissue contact. It releases microscopic spores when it reaches maturity. The spores can remain dormant for months." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "But our regular examinations of Park's left foot showed nothing unusual," Dr. Nam argued. "I examined the tissue myself after amputation." Dr. Kim nodded. "That's because standard tests don't reveal its true nature, but Dr. Choi discovered anomalies in the cell behavior." She touched the display again, bringing up Dr. Choi's recent findings. "The tissue samples now show clear evidence. The healthy foot had actually been almost entirely replaced by the alien organism. The board members watched the time-lapse recording of the cells dividing and changing in impossible ways. "If you had waited any longer," began Dr. Yoon, "Park would be dead, and we might have had an outbreak," finished Colonel Joe flatly. The parasite was hours away from reaching the final stage before brain migration. Dr. Song looked up from the files. Why wasn't the medical community informed of this threat? "Panic prevention," said Colonel Joe. "The military and the Watchers have been working together to contain this. It's why they've been observing us so closely." "The Watchers knew?" Dr. Bai asked in surprise. "They've seen this parasite destroy 3 other species on developing worlds," Dr. Kim explained. "They don't know its origin, but they recognize the pattern. Their policy is non-interference unless asked for help." Dr. Nam leaned forward. "And Surgeon Park? Does he know yet?" "He's being briefed now," Colonel Joe said. His phantom limb sensations were actually the parasite's neural connection, attempting to re-establish itself. Even separated from his body, it was still trying to reach his brain. Dr. Kim displayed one final image, a magnified view of what appeared to be a normal human foot, but with a subtle overlay showing an intricate network of non-human cellular structures completely interwoven with the human tissue. This was Park's left foot 3 days before surgery. To human eyes and standard scanners, it looked perfectly healthy. The parasite creates a perfect disguise while it prepares to move inward. Dr. Yoon ran a hand across his face. "So you sacrifice your reputation to save his life?" Dr. Kim nodded slowly. "And potentially many more. The parasite releases spores when it reaches the brain. One case could infect an entire colony within weeks. We need to prepare our medical staff," Dr. Ba stated firmly. "If this is spreading." "That's why we're here," Colonel Joe said. "As of this moment, all of you are part of Project Firewall. We need the medical community prepared, but we need to avoid public panic." Dr. Yoon looked at Dr. Kim with new respect in his eyes. "You've carried this burden alone for 6 months. The lawsuit, the public disgrace. It was necessary," she said simply. "Some secrets need to be kept until the right moment." Outside, in the waiting area, Surgeon Park sat with Dr. Choi, staring at the specialized scan of what had once been his foot. His face showed shock, then a dawning understanding. "All this time," he whispered, "I thought she'd ruined my life." Dr. Choi placed a hand on his shoulder. "She saved it." The Colonial Judicial Center was packed beyond capacity. People stood along the walls and crowded the doorways, straining to hear as Judge Koo delivered his ruling. News feeds broadcast the proceedings across all colonies, with urgent banners declaring this a landmark case. After reviewing the classified evidence now made available to this court, all charges against Dr. Kim are dismissed, Judge Koo announced. His voice carried authority that silenced even the whispers. "The record will show that Dr. Kim acted with extraordinary courage and medical insight to save not only the life of Surgeon Park, but potentially countless others." Dr. Kim sat quietly at the defense table. She wore her medical uniform again, the familiar weight of it comforting after months of civilian clothes. Her face remained composed, though those who knew her well could see the slight trembling of her hands, the only sign of her emotional relief. Across the aisle, Surgeon Park sat in his dress uniform, rather than the wheelchair he used during earlier proceedings. His new prosthetic foot, developed with previously restricted alien medical technology, allowed him to stand and walk with almost natural movement. He caught Dr. Kim's eye and nodded once, a gesture between soldiers who understood sacrifice. "Furthermore," continued Judge Koo, "this court extends a formal apology to Dr. Kim for the personal and professional hardships she has endured while maintaining crucial security protocols." The courtroom erupted in applause. Dr. Kim's former colleagues, many who had shunned her, now looked away in shame. Later that afternoon, in the governor's office atop the Colonial Administration Tower, a more private ceremony took place. Governor Shin stood behind his desk, flanked by 3 of the alien watchers and Colonel Joe. Dr. Kim and Sergeant Park stood at attention before them. "It is my honor to announce the formation of the Xenobiology Defense Unit," declared Governor Shin. "This joint Human Watcher initiative will serve as our first line of defense against biological threats from beyond our known space." He handed Dr. Kim an official document with multiple seals. "Dr. Sun Mi Kim, you are hereby appointed as the human director of this unit, with all authorities and responsibilities therein." Dr. Kim accepted the document with a small bow. "I will serve to the best of my abilities." And Sergeant Jeho Park, the governor continued, "You will serve as our liaison officer to the Watcher delegation, as the first human to survive parasitic infiltration. Your unique perspective will be invaluable." Park straightened his shoulders. "Thank you, sir." The lead Watcher stepped forward, its iridescent skin catching the light from the windows. Unlike in previous encounters, it had removed its translator device, choosing instead to speak directly in carefully practiced human language. "We have been watching humanity for centuries," the alien representative told the colonial governor, its voice melodic but clearly understandable. Dr. Kim's ability to detect our enemy's presence and her courage to act despite personal cost has elevated your species in our assessment. We now offer alliance against a common threat." The Watcher extended a slender hand in the human gesture of agreement. The governor shook it solemnly, aware of the historic moment. "The parasite entity has consumed 17 developing civilizations in our recorded history," continued the Watcher. "Your species is the first to identify and successfully counter an infiltration in its early stages. This suggests capabilities we had not anticipated." Dr. Kim looked up at the tall being. "If I may ask, why didn't you warn us directly? Why observe silently while people died?" The Watcher's large eyes blinked slowly. "Our past interventions with younger species have caused complications. We chose to watch, to see if you would adapt. You did more than adapt. You sacrificed for each other." Later that evening, Dr. Kim sat alone in her new office in the recently converted military wing of the medical center. The walls were still bare, the equipment still being installed. She looked at the small container on her desk, a preserved sample of the parasite, now permanently deactivated. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Sergeant Park stood there, slightly awkward on his new foot. "May I come in, Doctor?" She nodded, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. "I never properly thanked you," he said quietly. "You saved my life at the cost of your reputation. You couldn't even defend yourself." "I did what was necessary," she replied simply. "I spent months hating you," Park admitted, "planning how I'd use the settlement money to leave this colony and start over. Now I find out you're the reason I'm still here at all." Dr. Kim smiled slightly. "Life is full of unexpected turns." "The Watchers told me something interesting today," Park said. "They said the parasite has never been stopped before because other species weren't willing to sacrifice for strangers. Their societies were too focused on individual survival." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, contemplating this. "I've been asked to join the first reconnaissance mission to the parasite's suspected origin world," Park finally said. "They need someone who's had direct contact. I wanted you to be the first to know." Dr. Kim looked at him with new respect. "That will be dangerous." "Yes," he agreed, "but necessary." As darkness fell outside, lights came on in the new Xenobiology Defense Unit. Inside, human and alien researchers began working side by side, sharing knowledge that had been separate for centuries. Above the colony, more Watcher ships arrived, not to observe, but to join. Humanity had faced its test and passed in unexpected ways. The galaxy had taken notice,